Welcome back to Digitize Your Biz. If you've just joined us, we are discussing the different free and affordable online marketing tools that exist for businesses to utilize. So with me in studio is the director of algorithm agency, Ashley Watts. Ashley, before the break, we were just speaking about the different myths and misconceptions of digital marketing and the costs. So now that we've kind of broken that down and understand the fundamentals, what are some of the free websites or online platforms that exist that businesses can utilize?
Yeah, sure. And I think the biggest starting point, and I'll quickly just jump to that on my slide, is just around your website itself, because that's always the central point to where you're going to start driving traffic to, where you're going to list your products and your services, and how you're going to try to convert sales with your newly online strategy. And a lot of people feel that they need specialists or agencies or things like that to build websites, but the reality is that there's quite a lot of these platforms that already exist that any given person can learn quite quickly to execute their site. So I've put a couple of examples here. So we have WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, and Wix are some of the platforms that you can use to build your website itself. And there's also YouTube tutorials that allow you, for instance, 3 minutes WordPress tutorial of how to launch a new website on WordPress. But again, it comes with limitations with the different platform that you select. So just make sure that you understand the platform that you're selecting and making sure that that is relevant to what you're trying to do from a business perspective. So as an example, we have a look at the likelihoods of Joomla and Wix, and they are very easy to start designing from. But from an integration into things like tracking audiences and how your traffic's converting through your website, it's not great in that element. So roughly around, I don't know the exact stat at the moment, but 80% of websites currently exist on WordPress. It's probably one of the best tools that you can use. It is free. Depending on what type of theme you want for design and look and feel, there may be some payments required there or some plugins that you want, but the base layer itself is free. And it can be upgradable as well, and also integrates with a lot of the Google products and software and services that you can use as well. So as an example here, these are also free. All your Google Stack tools are free to utilize on your website. So if you have a WordPress website itself, you can have Google Analytics to obviously start tracking how people are navigating through your site, how many visitors are you getting on a day-to-day basis or month-to-month basis. You also have then things like Google Keyword Planner, which has the ability to saying what type of search terms are people searching for on Google, and how can I start integrating those key terms into my content on my site so that I start ranking for some of the key terms like that. And all of these Google tools are quite free. So what you need to do is you need to understand, cool, what is that base layer going to be that I'm going to build my website on? Obviously, there will be a hosting cost associated with it. So with the likelihoods, if you're hosting with AfriHost or different places like that, there will be a monthly cost to that. But the base layer itself is free. And then you can start piling on and integrating that into the Google Stack and making sure that all of those are working together. And that essentially is free as well. The second point that I kind of then talk on is the social media side of things. Now, we know that creating a Facebook business profile or things like that is free. But what a lot of people don't know is that the amount of data you can get from those platforms as well. So as an example, we have Facebook Insights, Twitter Analytics, LinkedIn Insights, where you can start understanding who those audiences are, how much you communicate to those audiences, and how can you utilize that platform better to actually help your business grow. And that's very important to do. And then if you're not very social savvy, there's also other tools like Hootsuite, Sprite Social, Social Bakers that actually will integrate all your social platforms together, and you can actually post to multiple platforms in once. You can integrate all your design into it. You can start tracking when things are posting, scheduling posts, and doing all of that. So they're there all to kind of assist you with that ecosystem from a social perspective, bring everything into one place and allow you to manage it completely. So now you've got your website, you've obviously got your social presence as well. You generally then also have a database of people, so your current customers and things like that, and you want to speak to them from an email perspective, and you want to maybe email them once a month and things like that. A lot of people think they need an agency for that as well. But we have the tools that currently exist at the moment, so like we've got MailChimp here, Sendinblue, Sender, OmniSend. They all great platforms that you can utilize, but limitations as well. So if you go over above, let's say, for instance, 10,000 users that you're sending through or 10,000 email addresses, then you have to pay. But a lot of small businesses don't have that amount of people itself. So they can build their emailers in the system itself. They can do the design, they can do everything that they need to do, and they can send it, and it's not going to cost them a thing. But then I think the biggest place where people are thinking that there's a massive amount of cost is in the design and imagery space itself. So how do I create something beautiful for my social media pages? How do I create a beautiful website? How do I do a lot of these things? And the reality is that there's actually tools that exist that can assist you do that now. And I think an important thing for people to note or think about is that the audiences are getting used to seeing more lifestyle images, not massively designed images, you know, and people are getting used to those stock photos with people smiling in an office, and they're doing those weird things with their glass of water and things like that. So people, when they see that being kind of fake and not there. People are kind of getting used to those more lifestyle animals, people at home doing that. So you can do that with your general cell phone today. It has the ability, it has the camera, and you can actually edit it through the apps on it. And people are getting more used to seeing that on social media, more used to seeing that more general lifestyle images. But if you can't get that right, then there's also places like ShotStash and Unsplash where you have photographers who just want credit. And they will give you images, or they allow you to select their images just for a credit, and you can utilize it in your marketing material for free. So basically what you're doing is you're building up their audience by crediting them through the things that you are doing through your marketing collateral. So they're willing to give you free images, you can utilize them, and you just credit them. And then there's obviously different other tools that you also have as well, so things like Canva and Vector, and that has the ability, it has templates in it where you can integrate your photos into it. You can apply it to a certain template and it will export it in the best way or size for a particular social media channel. So if your best size is, let's say, 400 by 400 to post on Facebook, it would then export that for you. So you take the images that you have, you apply it to a template, and you export it, and you have everything you need, and it hasn't cost you a cent. So I think the biggest misconception is just around the cost of getting to that point. But the reality is people need to open their mind a little bit more, learn a little bit more about what exists there, and then start applying that more so that you can start saving money. But yeah, definitely when you are putting together a digital strategy, there are specialists out there that can help you with things like this. Map that strategy out so you just don't go and do a whole bunch of different things and spend all this time focusing on all these different channels, yet only 3 of them are working and you've spent all this time doing that. So there is a level where you can learn, you can apply it to your marketing strategy yourself, but there is always that element where you will need to bring in a specialist at some point. To assist you and make sure that you get to exactly where you want to go. But yeah.
Something that you mentioned that I found quite interesting was the limitations of some of the free and affordable online marketing tools. What are those limitations? And at some point, like you mentioned, will a business have to start seeking an agency like yourself?
Exactly. So let's just take Facebook as an example. So you build a brand page. You all of a sudden bring this audience and you have, let's say, for instance, 100,000 people that like your page. That's a great database to communicate with. But what you'll notice is that when you actually post on your business page, you'll only reach, let's say, for instance, 3 or 4% of that audience. And then you wonder why. So basically what Facebook is doing is they're saying to you, great, we're giving you've got this 100,000 people that you have on your page, but in order to reach all of them, you have to pay us in order to reach them. So that's similar across a lot of the social media pages, is going, cool, I've got 1,000 or 100,000 likes, but I'm only reaching 3.5 or 4,000 of the people. How do I get to the rest of that? So that's your limitation. You can create it for free, you can build that audience, but you're only going to be able to reach that amount of people. And that's where then Facebook can start making their money. So as an example, you have Instagram advertising, Facebook advertising, Twitter advertising. That helps you get more reach to reach that bigger audience that you want to. And I would recommend then, before you start spending money through different channels, that you then start discussing with a specialist about what would be the best approach to take, or else you may end up just wasting your money, and no one wants to waste their money, especially in a time like today.
So your business's aim is to try and improve clientele's online marketing objectives. So for a small budget client, would they be able to get, if not as much value as maybe, say, your bigger paying clients?
No, not necessarily. It's not a case of a value thing. It's that we obviously give the most amount of value for the budget that they have. So it's more around how do we then pinpoint what digital strategy is going to work for you as a client? How do we then have a look at that entire marketing ecosystem? What are you selling? What services are you selling? Who are you trying to reach as an audience? And how do we then best utilize that money in the right channels that are going to work for you? So initially it might be a little bit more investment to understand your ecosystem or your digital ecosystem and how we start funneling people through that conversion funnel better. But definitely, if the more budget, obviously, the easier it is to reach bigger audiences. But for smaller businesses, especially for us, is that it's how do we identify what is going to work for the best amount of money and give you the best amount of ROI. It doesn't matter if you've got 50 million Rand to spend but your ROI is low, or you have 10,000 Rand and your ROI is high, the 10,000 Rand is actually performing better than the million Rand budget itself. So it's all about ROI. It's about how much money you got and how much ROI can you get out of the back of that. And so it's regardless of the size of the budget. It's about how do we make money from what you're spending.
Well, Ashley, thank you for joining me and just explaining to our viewers that digital marketing actually isn't that scary and it's not that expensive, and there are a plethora of options that businesses can look for online.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
That was Ashley Watts, Director at Algorithm Agency. If you want to get a hold of Ashley and his team, go visit their website at algorithm.agency. Stay glued to your screen, because when we return, I speak to entrepreneurs who are actively utilizing affordable digital marketing tools into their business.